Hey there, my name's Brashler, and in this video, I want to teach you about the different settings there are on the RTA of your Behringer WING. Now, if you're brand new to my channel, I'm all about helping you feel more confident with your production gear, no matter where you're starting from. So let's go ahead and dive in. Now, on the Behringer WING, on every single EQ page, for every channel, every bus, every main, every matrice, there is an RTA. Now, an RTA stands for Real-Time Analyzer, and basically it shows us what frequency content is happening across the band from 20 hertz, which is very low frequency, all the way up to 20 kilohertz, which is very high frequency. So as we can see, if I grab this microphone and I start talking into this, we can see that there's an RTA up here, and we can see that that is going. Now, there are some different adjustments that we can set this RTA to display differently on your console. Now, there's some favorite settings that I have and also some different settings that you may like. So if you pull up your EQ section and select a vocal, in the upper right-hand corner, there is the settings. So we can go ahead and press settings. Now, right here, we can see that there are a bunch of different options as far as our RTA goes. And we can see right off the top here, we have RTA Source. Now, we have two different selections. We have pre or post. Now, post would be post-processing. So it would show me what my EQ looks like with the RTA after my EQ has been applied to that channel, which in some cases, that might be very helpful. So we can set that to post. Now, RTA range, we have 30 dB or 60 dB. Now, if we go to 60 dB, what it's going to do is it's going to show a larger range on our RTA. Now, if we go to 30 dB, it's going to show a more finite or more resolution, smaller, kind of towards the top of the RTA range, giving us a lot more visibility of what the frequencies are doing kind of at the middle to upper range of that channel. Now, if we go into settings again, my favorite thing to change here, and I'm actually going to change it before I go into the rest of these settings, is down here on size/mode. Now, when you press into this, it pulls up a menu on the right above and slightly to the right. Now, there are different settings here that we have. So we can change our RTA source to be off, which I don't suggest because you might as well use the RTA if you have it. And so we can go back into settings and I can go back in here. Now, there is 1/4, which means that it's going to take up the top quarter of this EQ screen for the RTA. Now, if I go and set that to 1/3, we will notice that there's a little bit more of the window set for my RTA. Now, I can also go and set this to 1/2, which we can see that 1/2 of the screen is for the RTA and the other half is for the actual EQ. Now, my favorite setting is to go over here into OVL, which stands for overlay. And as we can see, this is my favorite type because it just is a very clean view of what the RTA is doing. And the other option is we can go into settings and we can go overlay of overlay/3, which means that the overlay is only going to take up the bottom third of the screen. But in my case, I'm going to set it to overlay because that's my favorite. Now, down in color, I can actually choose between a bunch of different colors. So I could go blue 25, which would be a darker blue. I can go into my settings here and I can select amber 75, which is a brighter amber, or amber 25, which is a darker amber, or red 75. There is my red color, or a darker color if I wanted to. And I personally like to leave this as blue 75, which gives a very nice representation visually for me to just be able to see. Now, the other options here that we have is our fixed gain and RTA auto gain. Now, fixed gain doesn't actually do anything if auto gain is turned on. Now, if we turn off auto gain, that will default to what I have set in the fixed gain, meaning that I can crank up the gain of my RTA, and I can then go back and look at my channel here, and we can see that the gain of my RTA is very high, so we can see all of the dynamic range of this channel. But we can also see that as I talk into this mic, it's going to be starting to clip off because the auto gain is not turned on and that RTA gain is set a little bit too high. Now, if I have this set too low, all the way down to -5, we'll notice that I would really have to talk into this to even see any RTA showing on my screen. In which case, I'm going to then turn back my auto gain back on for my RTA, in which case it will automatically level out to the volume of that channel. So as we can see, I'm talking really far away from this microphone. It's still showing me a good amount of RTA that's happening. But if I get this microphone closer to my mouth here, it will then quickly adjust itself to then be showing the correct amount of RTA while I'm talking to this microphone, which is why I like the auto gain. Now, if we go back into our settings, there are a couple other things that we have. RTA detector gives us a peak, an RMS, or an average. So it's just going to be changing the way that it's looking at the audio in that portion of the band while it's listening. So an average would be much slower and actually show the average signal of my channel as I'm talking into it. If I go back and change this to RMS, this is actually going to be doing a root mean square, which is listening to an average amount of the signal crest. It's a little bit different than an actual average, which is a timed average. And then if we go set this to peak, then it's literally listening to the peak instance of our impulse of that one frequency. So as I'm talking here, we can see that going. Now, my other setting that I have here is my decay. So I can set this to slow. And as we can see, if I snap into this, it will slowly go down. If I set this to fast, it will quickly go down in decay. Now, my favorite way of having this set is to go into settings, and we can see that my RTA source is post. My range is set to 30, or you can do 60 if you want to see more of the signal. I have my RTA decay set to medium, my detector set to peak, and my auto gain is turned on. My overlay is set, and then it's of the color of blue 75. Now, the way that this will help us is if I have a piece of feedback that's happening. I'm going to whistle here. It will show up as a straight line here. And at that case, I can then go grab an EQ band. I can go find that visually on the EQ and go super narrow with that. And then I can cut that frequency that was feeding back out. The other benefit of the RTA is just being able to have a visual representation of what the audio is actually doing for that specific source. So if you had a snare that was ringing in a specific portion of the band, you'd visually see that happening on the RTA, in which case you can grab a EQ frequency, go find where that is, maybe do a band solo with some headphones or your near fields if you have that set up. Go find that frequency and then you can adjust it as you want to. Now, this is one of my favorite things of having this RTA set. Now, the other great thing is if you press home, you can see that that RTA is still on the home page. So it's on the home page and it's on the EQ page, as well as every single channel, including your 31 band equalizers. So if I went and inserted a 31 band EQ, like this, and pressed on, in which case we can see that the RTA is here on the bottom. So if I had some frequencies that were feeding back and I wanted to use a graphic EQ rather than the channel or a bus EQ, then we can do that as we want to. Now, I hope this video was helpful for you today. If you do happen to have any questions, or there's a video that you're hoping that I would make on the Wing or really any production equipment that's out there, please post that in the comment section down below, as I'm always reading through those comments to find videos that are gonna be helpful for you. If you haven't already, make sure to check out my website at drew@brashler.com, where I have some articles, tips, and tricks, as well as some presets available for purchase for your Wing for being able to pull up different EQs and channel settings for a bunch of different things, as well as some great documentation as to why I'm choosing some of those settings. So go check that out if you're interested. Otherwise, I hope you have a great day.